Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we are going to be talking about my top 10 of 2021. Now, I will say, this year is a little bit better than 2020 when it comes to the films and output that I have seen, but I still am far behind on watching a lot of movies. And in fact, there's a lot of independent films that I have not seen. I still haven't seen Titan, but suffice to say, I still have a top 10, and I actually have some honorable mentions as well. And so I wanted to get those out of the way first, and I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'm just going to mention them here. They barely, some of them were in my top 10 until I had recently watched a few things from last year. But here they are. My first honorable mention is The Night House. With Rebecca Hall. I absolutely loved this film. I highly recommend it. It's definitely one of my favorite horror movies of the year, and there are just some unforgettable shots. The second film I want to talk about is Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Loved Bradley Cooper in this film. I thought he was a wonderful scumbag, and just the twists and turns that you would see, and the added depth that you would see from this story, which has already been made before, because this is, I guess, a remake of sorts, is incredible. And I think the depth is added a lot more. It's a lot more in your face about it, and the subtleties are still there, but it's added a lot more depth, and I really appreciate that. I really love that film. The other film I wanted to add is one of my favorite directors working today, David Lowery, The Green Knight. Really enjoyed this film. It's got a nice comical twist to it. It's very surreal. It's very visually stunning. Dev Patel does a really fantastic job of, once again, playing a character who's not really necessarily, you're not supposed to like this character. He's very flawed, but I can't get enough of The Green Knight. I highly recommend it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is early on in the year, I watched Guy Ritchie's Wrath of Man. And this is a movie that I needed. And I remember this was one of the first films I watched coming back into the theaters, I want to say. And it was just a really great time coming to see that film and just seeing pretty much as a ballsy action movie with Jason Statham. You know what you're going to get with a Guy Ritchie film for the most part, and you're also going to know what you're going to get with a Jason Statham film. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. So now let's actually jump into my top 10. All right, coming in at number 10 is Saint Maud, which I just recently watched, and it snuck past all those other ones I just mentioned. And man, oh man, this is Rose Glass, writer-director. This is her first debut film of a woman who is in a hospice care and in-home hospice care, and she's taking care of an elderly woman. A woman who has terminally ill cancer, an actress, and I guess I want to say dancer, a famous dancer that is losing her ability to live, of course, with cancer. But we're seeing the downfall of this patient, but also of Saint Maud, right? Maud, who is played by, I'm going to try to say this name correctly, Morfydd Clark. I think that's how you say her name. She does a wonderful job as Maud, and the subtleties in her performances and just the things that you see in her eyes just tells you something's not right. And it's a really fantastic horror film, like I said, from writer-director Rose Glass, who this is the first thing she's done when it comes to a feature-length film, and I thought this was an incredibly atmospheric film. There's lots of really interesting twists and turns, and I just loved how the film ended. It's definitely very memorable. It's seared into my mind. So anyway, if anyone hasn't seen Saint Maud, I highly recommend it. All right, coming in at number 9 is a film I don't have physically on me. I know it is out on 4K, but I want to talk about No Time to Die. This is Daniel Craig's last performance in Bond as James Bond here, because we've had so many James Bonds before. I think this is the 6th one. Yeah, let me count real quick. Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig. Yes. So anyway, I hope I didn't get anyone wrong. I know there's another Casino Royale, but that's not a thing. But anyway, No Time to Die. Really great send-off for Daniel Craig. I enjoyed a lot of this film. There was a lot of anticipation because obviously this film was delayed quite a bit, and It is a gorgeous film. It's probably one of the best looking films of the year. I mean, the budget probably can speak for itself, but it is just immaculate looking, and I was really glad to see this in theaters. And I can't wait to rewatch it once I have the 4K. And I've heard really fantastic things about that as well. But Rami Malek also plays a really fantastic villain. He's very subtle and also, kind of understated. He's not the best villain that you'll get from Daniel Craig. There's been better ones. I enjoyed Mads Mikkelsen quite a bit, and why am I blanking? Inglourious Bastards. He's also in this movie. But anyway, you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to put it right here. I'm just blanking as I'm talking right now. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film, and it brought me to tears because I have been a James Bond fan my entire life. And so seeing, Daniel Craig's journey is quite remarkable. So I highly recommend No Time to Die. It's rather lengthy, and it's pretty much for the Bond fans, but I know it's a divisive film too, but I highly recommend it. It's really, really wonderful. All right, moving in at number 8 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I was really blown away by this film. In fact, I talked about this film in the last video because I just picked this up in a recent haul, and this is a movie that it just blew me away. I really love Simu Liu and Awkwafina in this. I mentioned earlier that their dynamic is just wonderful and a breath of fresh air, really, because this is more like a friendship anyway, rather than a romance per se. But other than that, this was really just a really surprising film. We have a really likable and understandable, not maybe likable, but understandable villain in Tony Leung, and I just think this is a really great venture into almost like a side story of Marvel, because we are in the MCU now, and there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving pieces, and this film fit naturally into it, and I think it was a really nice treat on top of the visual aspect of this, because this is a visually stunning film. There's a lot of really great stuff, especially in the back half of the film, that I really, really loved the interactions of, and it's a film that you really do care about the characters, and I think that really is really, really important, especially with Marvel going forward, because you're going to have to craft new characters in a way to where you actually can develop some feelings for them and their actions that they take place. So I think they did a good job with this, and I would recommend this. Check this out on Blu-ray, 4K, Disney Plus, etc. Go check it out. I promise. It's a good time. All right, coming in at number 7 is Ridley Scott's The Last Duel. I talked about this recently as well, and talked about how much I enjoyed this film, and I really loved the performances, specifically Jodie Comer. Adam Driver and Matt Damon also do a phenomenal job. Ben Affleck as well. Those are our main characters, and just seeing that Rashomon, just different side stories of how the telling of this particular tale in ancient Paris, kind of around the 100 Years wartime period, and seeing the different lives unfold in this unspeakable act is really just speaks on the different interpretations of events. Seeing that and understanding the belief and understanding really testimony and truth is something that's really warped, and it's something that we have to kind of take into account a little bit more, and something we don't really think about too often. So, but The Last Duel, highly recommend it. It's well worth the long run time. It builds up to a very climactic fight that is worth its weight in gold with the amount of build-up that ensues before. And so yeah, Last Duel, I certainly recommend checking this one out. All right, number 6 is another film I do not have physically on me, and I don't know, it will be out eventually, hopefully on physical media. It is a Netflix film. It is Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. We also have phenomenal and Jesse Plemons and Kristen Dunst as well, who are a real-life couple, which I love. I love them, but this is a really phenomenal Western, a Western that I didn't expect it to be a Western. You kind of have an idea of it going into this film, like what it's going to be, and it just kind of shifts and morphs into other things. And I don't want to get too much into it because I want you to experience it if you have Netflix. But it is a really great character piece and relationship on these relationships that we have, familial relationships or romantic relationships, and really just how we get along with other people, especially in dire circumstances and where you're at, and that isolation that the self can have. It's really about Benedict Cumberbatch per se, and his journey, and of just really just kind of being standoffish and living in the past a little bit, and seeing where that leads him. And I think that's an amazing journey to see. And honestly, it's a journey about everyone else I just mentioned in the film. It's a journey about Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons as well, and the actor who plays Kirsten Dunst's son, who once again, forgetting the name. I know it's a name that I can't pronounce, but I'm going to put it right here. He's phenomenal as well. So I highly recommend that. And Jane Campion is just just an amazing director that I need to see more of her work. So highly recommend Power of the Dog. Check it out if you haven't seen it. All right, number 5 is Spider-Man No Way Home. And this is probably one of the most fun experiences I had in the theaters. I was able to watch it opening night with a lot of friends, and we were definitely very hyped for this film. It's a movie that we were really looking forward to, and all of the things that we wanted and more came true. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. The spoilers out there, I mean, come on. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm going to go ahead and say spoilers right now. All the Spider-Mans are in it. So we have Tobey Maguire, we have Andrew Garfield, and we finally have probably the best Tom Holland Spider-Man performance, because it really is still revolving around him. It's mainly about his journey as Spider-Man, and seeing the added additions of Garfield and Maguire, we see and build upon that relationship that we have with this character, because there's a reason why Spider-Man's breaking all these records. I think it's because he's so relatable and he's so likable as a character, not just in those actors, but just in his story. It's really well written. And so, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun time. It's a very sad time, but it's also a very fun time as well. So go check it out if you haven't seen it. All right, moving right along to number 4, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 1. This is a phenomenal film with a great cast, and I really enjoyed jumping into this world. A world where like I mentioned in a previous video where I talked about just getting this into the collection, I do not know, because I have not read the book, nor the subsequent sequels, nor have I seen the David Lynch adaptation. So I went into this really blind, and I really enjoyed the performances. I loved Oscar Isaac as Paul's dad, Timothée Chalamet, who is our main character here. And yeah, I could see, it feels like it's a really great sci-fi, where it kind of adds that emotional depth, where there are some emotionless characters that add emotion. I don't know how to describe it, but like it almost feels like this could easily be a very like cold film. It could be a film that really just kind of tries to isolate the people who don't necessarily understand the jargon of the film. But I think that Denis does a really great job of inviting people into this world, visually, and through the dialogue and through the character development. And I cannot wait to see part 2, and I highly recommend it. So if you haven't seen Dune, check it out on 4K. I wish we could all go back to the theater and see this one. All right, moving right along to number 3 is a film that I literally just watched not too long before I started filming this. It really jumped all the way up to number 3 because of how powerful this film sucked me in. And I'm talking about Spencer. Kristen Stewart plays Princess Diana. This is in December of '91, I want to say. So this is around the holiday periods. This is a really small sliver and slice of life in the life of Princess Diana. Now, I will say, when Princess Diana died, I was really young. So this happened, I think in '97 is when she passed away, around that time period. So it was years before this. Yeah, like I said, I really didn't know much about how many people loved her, really just for being herself and being a very unique character in the royal family, right? But I really enjoyed this particular piece because it really is about just like almost like a day in the life, couple days in the life of somebody who is really struggling, and somebody who's really struggling with the limelight, or someone who's really struggling with the spotlight, or just trying to live her life and the life of her children, right? Who just absolutely loves. She loves her children, and really just seeing those moments Obviously, this is a work of fiction, and it even kind of mentions that it's like fictitious and truthful events, something along those lines. But the performance was just something I couldn't comprehend too well, and the other performances too by everyone else who was just assisting her in her just everyday existence. I think added more depth and added more weight, and also took off weight from her shoulders for what she's going through. And yeah, just kind of suffocating her in the process. And this is something that I highly, highly recommend people check out. And I'm so happy that I was able to watch this finally. It's a film that makes me want to go watch Jackie now, who is the same director. So I want to get this name correctly. Pablo Larraín is the director of this film. Yeah, so this has Sean Harris, who was probably my favorite actor in this, besides Kristen Stewart, and also Sally Hawkins, Timothy Spall. They're all really, really phenomenal. But there's just, it's something worth checking out. And so check out Spencer if you haven't seen it. All right, coming in at number 2 is, I would say, probably my favorite performance from Nick Cage. And I'm talking about Pig. This is a film that I didn't have much expectations. I heard going into this that it was going to be something else, because Nick Cage has kind of been on a roll a lot lately. And in fact, he's going to be in his own role, playing himself, not playing himself, in the coming future. You know what I'm talking about for that film. But anyway, Pig. It's a film about a man and his relationship with a pig. He lives out in the woods. He used to be, someone else, and just wants to isolate himself. And the profound subtleties found in this movie, if you just kind of settle with the idea of like what we've all collectively went through, with the fact that we all just went through a pandemic and we're still going through it in some cases. This film really touches on that a little bit. It also touches on our ability to want to escape from it all. I mean, this even goes all the way up to Spencer, what we just talked about, the ability to get away from life and the obligations that we have for other people, and etc. There's a lot of things going on. And finding true joy in what you do. And there's also some selfishness here too. And I'm not trying to highlight Nick Cage as like a good person in this particular film. There is elements that everyone that is in this film is good and bad, really. So this is a really, really powerful film. One that is unforgettable. I love that I have it now. It's beat up beyond recognition, my copy that I got in the mail. But I highly, highly recommend it. It's certainly one of the films that affected me, one of the most in 2021. And last but certainly not least is my favorite film of 2021 thus far. Like I said, I haven't seen everything, but my favorite film is a film directed by Mike Mills. It is Come On, Come On. And it is starring Joaquin Phoenix, and it is a black and white shot film of an uncle and his nephew, who is kind of estranged in a way. His sister, his uncle Joaquin Phoenix and his sister, they've been apart for a little bit, but he is sent to more or less take care of his nephew, and really just kind of just living that existence, and really just kind of exploring like what we do when we're so busy with life, and forgetting about those people that could potentially mean a lot to us. I'm probably not selling this film very well. It's really hard to describe the emotions that went through my head as I was watching it. It's a film that made me emotional in multiple ways. Happy, sad, just I wanted to reach through the film itself. And it is a personal film, at least in my eyes, and one of yearning, right? So it's really hard to describe that. Really hard point to sell this particular film, but it is masterfully well done, and I think Joaquin Phoenix does a phenomenal job in playing this uncle who has his own hard troubles that he's going through, and seeing the growth in his nephew, who is definitely different in the best ways possible, is just really, it's beautiful to see unfold. And it'll definitely make you feel things all over the map, emotions wise, but it's the film that really just impacted me the most this year, and one that is unlikely to forget. And so that is my top 10 films of the year. I would love to know what your thoughts down on all the films that I mentioned down in the comment section down below, or even the ones that I have not seen just yet. I'm really excited to check those out as well. But yeah, I would love to see your thoughts on these films and on your top 10. So let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.